it's not reporting. It's truly an architecture that you put together. Just like alignment is not just a meeting. Alignment is a system that you build. And to go back to one of my points that I made on one of my LinkedIn posts when I was talking about this speaker series, you really can't scale what you can't explain. And oftentimes in businesses, we want to scale. We want to get more growth. We want to reach more revenue. We want to reach revenue faster, more predictably. But you really can't optimize and you can't scale what you don't know.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining our second speaker session with Amp Your Story. My name is Jacob Yang. I'm the CEO and founder of Amp Your Story. It's an online community for clean energy marketers. If you aren't familiar, we also have some new partnerships in our community that we offer with Climate Ties for investing in renewable energy projects, Charge Conference to get an exclusive discount if you'd like to attend in San Antonio, Texas, and Heat Spring. So if you are in the residential solar space, an EPC installer, and you're looking to provide additional value to your team to get NABCEP certified or additional opportunities there for learning, feel free to look into that partnership as well. But today, I'm really excited to be joined with Amanda Price. She is a good friend and colleague of mine, and she really knows the landscape of RevOps very well. So today, she's joining us to talk about how to redefine revenue, marketing, and operations so that they work together to create smarter, more predictable growth engines. So Amanda, if you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to take a couple minutes here. I wanted to say two things before I introduce myself. I am Amanda Price. So glad to be here. My background is in clean energy, and it's very end-to-end, which is why I feel like RevOps was the natural home for me when I started. I started by building sustainability programs for Fortune 500 companies and large CNI customers. And we use tools like RNG to help organizations decarbonize in a way that was measurable and operationally real. From there, I worked with a solar developer. I worked with a Salesforce partner, and I got a lot of exposure to a lot of different companies. And then I worked in the C-space financing sector. So I've seen how projects are sold, funded, delayed, and sometimes derailed in all aspects. And all of that has taught me one thing, that clean energy really doesn't fail because of ambition. It fails when our systems, our teams, and our data aren't aligned. And that's why I chose to focus on RevOps and in the marketing space.
Great. Yeah, appreciate it, Amanda. If you wouldn't mind starting off too with what RevOps is, if you could share what it is and how it differs from some of the more traditional paths of sales, marketing, and ops.
Yeah, for sure. So RevOps, as it stands right now, and how I feel it's best defined, is flow, and what it was before, and what we thought of as revenue operations. Sorry, I'm like glitching out over here. Was more just focusing on functions and siloed. So focusing on each department, where it used to be focusing on marketing. Is marketing hitting their KPIs? Is business development hitting their KPIs? Is operations hitting their KPIs? So everything was really siloed, and it was described by function, and it was optimized by function. And there really wasn't a seamless process that took it from end to end. And I'm talking from marketing and conceptualization all the way through client retention and customer success. And that's what RevOps is. Revenue operations is the flow that takes it and has that red string that pulls it from the start to the finish and moves it back around again. So for me, RevOps doesn't happen in pieces. It's one cohesive system that we have so that we aren't siloed and that everyone is having the same conversation, the same dialogue, and we're all speaking in the same language. And a lot of companies don't know what they don't know. And they say, well, we're going to have measurable growth by 25% next year. Okay, well, where are your critical risk factors? Where are your bottlenecks? Where are your friction points? If you don't know where those are, you're just going to compound the issue, and you're going to have growth at the front end with maybe your marketing and your business development, but when it comes time for execution, you're going to get really, really bottlenecks, and you're going to have a lot of friction points that happen that either derail projects or hurt client relationships.
That makes sense. I'm curious, to be honest, you're one of the few RevOps individuals I know working in the space, and I can tell you're on the leading front end of it. I know you've been featured on a separate RevOps summit that you were telling me about this fall. Do you think that every clean energy company needs to incorporate RevOps? And if they do, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I definitely think that all renewable energy and clean energy absolutely does need RevOps, and they need somebody specifically having attention towards that space. And that's because we are scaling faster than we're internally maturing. And that gap is really expensive. If you look at all of the trends for 2030 and where we need to be for grid readiness, solar, wind, a lot of the renewable and clean energy have to be there to support grid readiness for 2030, for the 2030 plan. And we can't have the growth that we need and that the country really relies on without having RevOps and all working together to make sure that we are hitting the goals that we need to. Like right now we're faced with long sales cycles. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that this year with policy and regulatory changes. We knew were coming, but we didn't know when they were going to come out. And when they came out, we found out that there was the acceleration of the IRA and the ITCs. And then in August, we got the notification from the IRS about defining beginning of construction and the dates for those. So we have long sales cycles. We had unpredictable sales cycles this year because of that. We've got thinner margins. We've got capital pressure. We've got complex stakeholder chains, and we have the regulatory and policy risk that we have to face. So we have to account for all of these different moving parts and pieces. And again, if you want to be able to scale and you want growth, which every clean energy company is aiming for right now, because we see what the go is, we see what is out there to go and get. And if you're not optimizing internally, the energy space is going to grow without you, and you're going to be left behind.
I think that last part really resonates with a lot of individuals on this call in marketing. It'll lead into my next two questions, but the first one, a lot of people on this call were thinking marketing, content, campaigns. How does RevOps go past just the simple lead gen mindset to more of a revenue architecture, thinking about marketing's impact behind just the front end lead generation aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really feel like campaigns don't fail, handoffs do. So when you're looking at a traditional model, you're looking at optimizing marketing. Well, marketing says we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. We're getting all of these MQLs, and we're doing our job. It's sales, it's business development. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Automatically, right then and there, that is a handoff issue. If they're saying that they're getting MQLs, but sales is not converting them, it's a handoff issue, or because they're not just creating art at that point. And that's what I feel like. And I run our marketing and our RevOps. So I feel like if I do something in marketing and it's not generating revenue, I've created art. Good job. Congrats. It looks pretty. It looks great. That's not the aim here. That's not the game. The game is to get revenue and to get conversion. So, you need to make sure that marketing is talking with business development and with sales to ensure that there's alignment between the two, that the messaging is what is purposeful, and that is what's being said during those sales calls. And it's not something different, so there needs to be good brand messaging that's built in there. And you have to optimize for that with your brand messaging. So often, like, marketing to me isn't just a job and a function, it's part of the business development and revenue process. And it's not just lead generation where we've thought of it traditionally before. Like, it's a campaign. Was it successful? Well, if you don't have good reporting and you don't know the downstream implications and effects, you don't know if marketing really was successful or not. I think attribution is great, but without context, it's just noise. Like, great, we know where it came from, but if it's really not converting to revenue and converting at the rate that we thought it was or that it should be, it really is just chaos and it's just noise. And RevOps connects the intent behind business development and marketing to the income and the revenue at the end of the stream. So for me, RevOps, because I do RevOps and marketing, I think oftentimes people are a little nervous and apprehensive that RevOps, because there's optimization wrapped into that. And we're saying, is marketing really influencing revenue? And they're worried that that's going to kill the creative aspects of marketing. And for me, I don't think it does as a marketer. If I know what's working and what's not working, it doesn't hinder my creativity. It helps me thrive so that myself and teams aren't guessing what's working and what's not. I know my attribution. I know through attribution of what's working downstream and why it's working, and how I can bring that story at the end back to the top of the funnel and filter it back down again.
Amanda, I think you're in a unique position with your job title, working on the marketing and RevOps, to answer this next question. But let's say you hop into a new role and you're tasked with building those relationships, talking about the handoffs and reducing friction there. What are some of the first things you do to build rapport with the sales, operations, and customer success teams?
I think that's a great question. And I think it takes a really strong individual to come into this position, that you're not afraid to go and make introductions. And it's very easy if you're attuned and you have the intuition for seeing micro and macro gaps and issues, to start those conversations and those dialogues, to say, like, hey, I'm seeing that this isn't working. And you have to be bold enough to say what it is that everyone is afraid to say. Like, everybody sees, but they're afraid to speak out loud because, like, they're either implicating themselves or they're afraid they're going to throw another department under the bus. So you need somebody that's agnostic to those departments, that comes in and makes the introduction and says, hey, I really want to go through your process start to finish. Like, what have role clarity and roles and responsibilities in knowing what they do, what they're responsible for, and knowing their start to end, and what departments are touched at certain points during that cycle that they have. And then you start bridging in other departments and saying, okay, well, marketing does the handoff to business development. Business development has to bring in estimating, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. How does that handoff work? Is that through a CRM process? Is it through a manual process? So I do a hierarchy of what's a critical risk factor. This is something that needs to be fixed immediately. Like, it is causing significant delays. It's derailing the expectation of how the process should be going and working. Then you have bottlenecks, which are holding up, but they're not as critical as critical risk factors. And then you have friction points where it's like, this is irritating. I always have to go back to so-and-so and ask them, like, can I get this file? Those are things that you can start eliminating. But what I like to focus in on is one department, one process, fixing one thing at a time, and then slowly bridging in the gap of having other people come in. And I'll tell you from personal experience, and when I say recently, this was, I want to say like August, September, beginning of September at the latest, I had my first handoff conversation where we did not use AI. This was very human connection. And it was so, so, so very clear to me that these three departments, that business development, estimating, and operations, have not been in a room together and talked about what the end-to-end cycle looked like. And there was a lot of, well, I thought you did this, and I thought, and I thought, and I thought. There were a lot of guessing, or they just limped along with the current process. And so we really laid it out. And I think there was a lot of apprehension at first of like, how is this going to go? And I laid the groundwork, and I said, this is not finger pointing. We're bringing kindergarten rules into this conversation. We're not finger pointing. We're not raising our voices. We're not getting angry. We're not getting frustrated at past processes. We're going to talk about, what does it look like currently? Where are there issues? Where do you feel like you're being faulted, or that it's a messy handoff process? And let's talk about it right now, and let's eliminate that issue. And just eliminating an issue by issue, until it's a smoothed out process. And now you've got the groundwork and the framework to say, okay, not only is this the process now, but now we can put together real SOPs that people can rely on and say, this is the process, this is who does it, this is why they do it, this is when they do it, this is where they do it. And everyone can follow and have the same conversation, instead of everybody just thinking someone else is doing whatever it is that they're doing.
I think I really liked how you're essentially tying in marketing, but other facets as well too. So we have all the skill sets in this call with everyone watching, and you're pairing it with the ways that you can improve a business bottom line, which is incredible. You're talking about practicality, and I think that's really valuable. There's something that we talked about briefly, and I want to dive a bit further into it. We talked about prior to this call, but I would love to hear how AI and automation is playing into RevOps specifically, knowing that, essentially you're my source of truth right now on this topic, and I appreciate you being on this call with us.
Yeah, thanks. For me, AI does not replace judgment. It doesn't replace the human aspect that we need. It accelerates truth. And truth is a very shaded word for me. Truth, because you could have bad data, and your bad data can tell the truth of the bad data that you have, so it can tell the truth of the chaos that you have, or it can tell you the truth of the cleanliness of the data that you have. And I think it is a great optionality and tool to use responsibly. I think there are areas absolutely where we can use AI responsibly to accelerate good, clean truth. And I think there are areas where it compromises human safety. And that is where I will never advocate for or touch for AI to be woven in, because safety, HSE, is part of the RevOps cycle, right? Every department that touches the customer and the client is part of RevOps. But where I'm not willing to compromise is when it comes to human safety. There needs to be someone there that knows OSHA, that is OSHA compliant, and that leads with authority with that. AI is really great for pattern recognition and faster pattern recognition. And we can talk about this a little bit more, but this is where I feel like women, I don't know any of my friends, and I'm sure that you guys feel this way, and men, respectfully, I'm sure you feel this way too, that there isn't a woman that you know that's like, man, how did she know that? How did she pick that up? How did she like picked up on context clues? Like this woman should be in the FBI. Like women, we are like made for RevOps because RevOps is all about pattern recognition. And girls, like we know this, we got this. Like, but going back to AI is really good at accelerating that pattern recognition, the lag detection, surfacing misalignment. Um, it can tell you when departments aren't talking, but it can't make them care. It can't dictate and change and like make change. You still have to have that human connection to be able to impact and influence change. So you can use AI to kickstart and to find some of the issues or some of the greatness in your process faster, but it's not going to replace judgment. It's not going to replace accountability. It's not going to replace trust. And it's not going to replace any of your safety decisions. Please, I am begging you, do not use AI to replace any of your safety decisions. Like I want to make that so abundantly clear, especially, working in clean energy and working in the industry of energy. So everything that I do, I think about somebody came to work as a whole human being. I want them to leave as a whole human being. And what I am not willing to do is accelerate a process to put somebody at risk. That is off the table, never, ever, ever up for question. So AI is a diagnostic tool, not a moral compass. Bad data is just going to give you confidence that you have wrong answers faster or good answers faster. And it surfaces the truth, like we talked about. Humans still have to act and care and implement that change that AI uncovered.
Going back to the piece on women in solar, I don't remember the source, but we were passing it back and forth in our LinkedIn convos. I think we saw something that it said 31% of the solar industry is women, and definitely even fewer in RevOps. So I'm curious, like, how can we encourage more women to lean into this newer function in the industry?
Yeah, so it's roughly about 30%, 31% are in solar and clean energy are representative of women in the space. And that includes when we look at laborers, electricians, we're not just talking about payroll and marketing and the office jobs. We're talking holistically, 30% are women. And it's between 7 and 10% are in leadership positions. So it's a very marginal and small percentage of the whole population that are women in senior leadership roles. I think men look at job descriptions and they're like, oh, I could do that. And women, we look at it and say, if I don't meet every single one of the bullet points and this criteria for a job description and for requirements, I'm not going to apply. Please apply. Like you have a valuable voice. You have something that you can bring to the table. And we need diversity of background. We need diversity of gender. We need diversity of race, ethnicity, disability, everything. Like we need diversity in this energy industry. There is a difference between having respect for people and coming to a table and being intimidated. And you can respect the people that are in the room, but I will tell you from firsthand experience, when you start getting into more and more rooms with senior leadership, and I am talking no matter what industry we're talking about, this is not specific to clean energy, renewable energy, solar, I'm talking all industries. The more that you are in these rooms and you're having conversations, there are rules and there's a game board to follow here. Okay. And that's what you need to learn the landscape of how to talk the talk and how to win influence and to get someone to hear you. And you should respect other people's voices and how they got there, but do not be intimidated. Please remember that everyone has this is so off color, but I'm just going to say it. Everyone has oh my God, what if I shit my pants plan? Okay. So go to the table and just remember that everyone that you're intimidated by has that plan in place and they've got that in their head. And I promise you, it alleviates so much anxiety and stress. Or personally for me, it does. But I think women just need to know we're great, in dating or with our kids, our spouses, our friendships, we pick up on things. We have great pattern recognition. And that's what RevOps is. We're able to tell stories and connect people and have these human dialogue and conversation, and having more confidence in yourself of what you bring to the table is really all that you need. If you have confidence, that gets you in the door to have the conversation that you need to have. Bring every aspect of what you have done and relate it to, we have all seen, I personally feel like we have all seen in companies that we've worked at, the micro and the macro issues and obstacles that are going on, but we are too fearful to say them out loud. Say them out loud. Speak them. Say it. Because you are going to say something that everybody else is thinking, but they are too afraid to say. And if you say it, you win influence, you win impact, you win power. And power gets you a seat at the table.
Yeah, well said. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit deeper on the RevOps piece. If anyone on this call or anyone listening, they're hoping to explore a transition into RevOps. You mentioned a lot, pattern recognition is a key piece. Are there any other keywords that would be relevant when you're looking at RevOps roles?
I would definitely say, when there are broken handoffs. I think I think pattern recognition is a big part of it, but it's knowing how to have the dialogue, have the conversation with the different departments. And that takes some humility on your part as well to say hey, I don't really actually know exactly what your department does. And saying that and then being quiet and letting someone really explain what they do and what they're supposed to be doing, so you have a better idea of how it flows into the whole overarching flow, and they're not just a function. And if after they explain what they do, if it still feels like they're a function and they're not fitting into the flow, that's a much bigger problem and issue than you just got more information. You really need to understand what everyone does, what everyone's department does, and what everyone's role is to be able to have those appropriate handoff conversations and to talk intelligently about the flow of how everything goes from end to end. You need to know about ownership, reporting, accuracy. Just because you can make detection and make pattern recognition, you have to do the end part of that, which is making decisions. So you have to have the ownership of saying, okay, this was the detection. This is what we saw. This is what I heard. This is what you're telling me. This is now the ownership. And this is where we're going to make decisions about how we're going to fix these issues. So you can't have one without the other. You can have great pattern recognition and great reporting, and you can have all the detection in the world. But if you don't have the audacity to make the decisions and to move the ball forward, you've called out a bunch of issues that now people are upset about without providing any kind of resolution to it. So you have to do the back end part of it, which is the hard part, in my opinion. It's not the detection of it, it's the oversight of ensuring that you're smoothing out the process and that you're providing solutions. And I like to do plan. So we're going to plan what we're going to do. We're going to analyze it. We're going to get alignment from everyone, and then we're going to execute. So we plan, we analyze, we align, and then we execute. And I do not do those 4 things out of order, and I do those 4 things every time. Making a plan, I'm analyzing, so talking with people, departments, analyzing reports, I'm getting alignment to ensure that what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what you're telling me is true. We're coming up with the plan to ensure that it becomes better. And then we're going to execute on it. And then we go back and we plan, we analyze, we align, and we execute again. Because just because what you thought was going to fix the issue may not completely fix it. So you may have to go back and do it again until the process is smoothed out. Think of it as like ironing. Okay, like you're ironing, you're trying to get those wrinkles out. Like you go over it once, unless you've got that steam on and you've got that heat turned up high, like you're not getting those wrinkles out on the first try. It may take a couple, like holding it down, putting some pressure on it, and going slow and being purposeful, or going over it a few times, getting all of the wrinkles ironed out.
I love that. Amanda, I think we've covered a lot of great topics, but I want to leave it a bit open-ended here. Is there anything else you'd like to share about RevOps, the state of women and clean energy, and how we can support and lead them into more leadership roles, or anything else marketing and RevOps related that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, I mean, I think RevOps for me is about truth. It's not about control, because if you have somebody who's owning the process from start to finish, and you have somebody who you have these departments that don't report to you, but you have ownership of making sure that there is a seamless process from start to finish, from end to end, it can seem like control, and it is not control. It is about uncovering truth faster and making a diagnosis and smoothing it out so that we can reach revenue faster. And as long as there is ego removed from that, like I don't have ego when I talk about RevOps with our teams. Like if somebody comes to the table with a great idea, good on you. Let's do it. Let's implement it. I don't have to be the one that comes up with the decision making. Everybody has a voice, just like everybody has a voice in safety. Anybody can call a stop work on a job site. Anyone. If you see something that is unsafe, you can call a stop work. And I feel the same way about RevOps. Anybody can call out a process that is not working correctly. But I do ask that if you bring me a problem, you've thought about it enough that you've also brought me a solution, a proposed solution, whether that's good or bad, but like you've thought about this enough, because otherwise it's just complaining. And that's all that it is, so RevOps is truth. It's not control. AI should surface problems. It should not be used to avoid conversations. And alignment beats effort for me every single time. So just because like you keep trying and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and we're doing our best. Like you hear that from departments and department heads and like leadership within departments all of the time. We're doing our best. We're doing our best with what we have, with the workload that we have. Like, no, we need alignment. And if we have alignment is going to be effort every single day of the week. And you need RevOps to be able to do that. And clean energy really deserves systems that are resilient and as resilient as the future that we're building. And I hope that we're all excited for and energized for. There are a lot of great tools to use, and RevOps, like, it's not just like we talked mostly about like the marketing and business development, and estimating and operations aspect of it. But, you know, even further down the pipeline where you have all of business development's pipeline sitting there. Well, what's truth? What's accurate? How can you get to the pipeline inspection and give confidence to your C-suite, give confidence to your board about what those numbers are? And those are based on good data. Knowing what your lead lag times are. How long is your sales cycle? How do you shorten your sales cycle? Boards, I can tell you right now, are equipped to take bad news. Pause. I will stop there. They are equipped to take bad news. What they are not equipped for and what they will not tolerate are surprises. You do not want to give your C-suite and your board surprises. And RevOps is the function, or I just said function when I said we're not all function, but it is the role that is giving clarity to the entire process and giving stability really to everything that you do and why you do it, and giving stability to the numbers at the end of the day.
Yeah, brilliant. Amanda.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You're doing great. If you got anything else, I don't want to cut you off.
Close with, when we can finally see the truth about our data and our departments and what's going on, the handoffs, the incentives, we can grow without burning people out and just like lighting money on fire just for the sake of saying that we want to grow. Let's grow intentionally without growing with making repeated mistakes that are just going to compound over time, because the more that you scale and the more that you want to scale, the more problems you're going to have if you don't smooth these out at the beginning. So clean energy, I really feel like we're doing important work, and we owe it to systems that are intentional and they're resilient and they are humanized. And they're the future that we are building. That's RevOps.
Amanda, incredible. You've got so many great one-liners and great feedback from the community here. Good. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, you can reach out to me for sure. Happy to have those conversations. Happy to take them offline and have, like, I deeply love human dialogue and human conversation. And I am that person that if you text me or you message me, like, I am going to call you. Like, there is a human factor that I think got misplaced around COVID, where we just all relied on technology a little too much, if I'm being honest. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. If we exchange contact information, you better expect that we're going to have a call, a video call, a phone call, whatever your preference is. But I do enjoy those conversations, and I've worked with so many different industries before that I doubt there's going to be an industry that is just like, oh, I'm shocked, I have no idea what advice to give you or to offer to you.
Great, Amanda, I appreciate it. Again, thank you so much.